All right, it is live at 5. My name is Maestro Amílcar, and I am a phys ed teacher here in New York City with a boxing show. And I've got a special guest here today that I'm going to bring in just a moment. And we want to talk about a few things that are happening in the sport of boxing right now. And we're going to get it started with the issue of how Top Rank seems to want payback against its own fighters, and payback when fighters seem to do what they're supposed to do, which is win fights. All right, when a fighter wins a fight, usually a fighter gets rewarded, especially when it's a unification fight, especially when it is a fight with a lot on the line. And there have been two cases recently where this has happened, and we're going to talk about both of those cases. The first case, okay, was a few years ago, and it involved none other than Guillermo Rigondeaux from Cuba, all right, who took on a man named Nonito right here in New York City at Radio City Music Hall. The second more recently took place with Teó taking on Lomachenko and doing what he was supposed to do. And what he was supposed to do was win a unification fight. He went in there, he was the underdog, he did what he had to do, he won the fight, but yet after the fight, he's not getting rewarded. He's not getting his just due. So let's take it back to Saturday, April 13th, 2021 in New York City. I was there for the fight. I was there live for the fight. All right. Nonito at that time was the man. Okay. Nonito at that time was being considered pound for pound great. He had that pound for pound status. People had him pound for pound number 1, pound for pound number 2, pound for pound number 3, you name it. Then what happens? He takes on El Chacal. He takes on Guillermo Rigondeaux here in New York City. And what happened was El Chacal did what he was supposed to do, man. He went into this fight again. He was ranked after Nonito. Nonito was the champ. Guillermo had the WBA title. Nonito had a title in addition to the Ring Magazine title. But here's what happened. All right? You want to know what happened? Here's what happened. Boom. Right jabs all night long. That's what happened. Boom. Ugh. Left hands to the face. Left hands to the chin. That's what happened. What happened? Boom. That happened. Oh. Left hands all night long. All right. I was there. That's what happened. Boom. That happened. Oh. That right hook landing all night long. Now, at that time, again, Nonito was pound for pound great. Many had him as pound for pound number 1. He had his fans on HBO. He had his fans like Max Kellerman. I was a fan. But why do I bring this up? Well, I bring this up because you fast forward to Saturday, October the 17th. Look at the similarities. Nonito was the man. Lomachenko was the man. Rigondeaux was number 1. Teófimo was number 1, as in contender, supposedly. Right? And what happened? Both these dudes went in there, big fights, unification fights. And what happened with Teó? That happened. Right uppercut. Boom. That happened. Oh, that happened. Again, right hands all night long. Matter of fact, what also happened is Loma didn't fight for the first 6 rounds. That happened too. That happened. And most importantly, boom, that happened. So what happens after all of this happens, though, is what we're really going to get into. And what happened after all this happened is Bob Arum started to hate. All of a sudden, Bob Arum's going all over the place talking about how Rigo's boring. Nobody wants to watch Rigo. Rigo makes people throw up when you bring up his name. What happens with Teó now? Well, apparently Teó's all of a sudden a spoiled little brat. He thinks he's worth more than he is, and he's not really worth that much. We're going to bid a low-ass amount, a low-ball amount, and finish 3rd in the purse bid. And then what are we going to do? Then we're going to go and say that Eddie Hearn is somehow doing a bad thing by bidding on the fight. How dare you, Eddie Hearn, bid for a fight I want to bid in? Wait a second. I thought this was the boxing business, Bob. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring up some stock audio of the ideal top ranked boxer in the view of probably Bob Arum in the top ranked brass. Let's have a listen real quick.
He gonna stay in the big house? Steve, he's a slaver. It's different. In the big house. Well, you got a problem with that? Oh, no, I ain't got no problem with it. If you ain't got no problem with burning the bed, the sheets, the pillowcases, everything else when this black-ass motherfucker's gone.
Wait a second. Teó wanted to be in the big house. Teó wanted to get those big checks. Apparently that's not what Bob Arum expected of Teó.
Problem, they are mine to burn. Now, your problem right now is making a good impression. And I want you to start solving that problem right now and get them goddamn rooms ready.
Yes, sir, Mr. Kenny.
Well, you know, Teó wasn't willing to do that, man. Teó wasn't willing to say, yes, sir, Mr. Bob Arum, sir. Yes, sir, Bob Arum. I'll take a 1.2 million. I'll take my minimum, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Bob Arum, sir. No, that's not how it works, Bob. Teó's undisputed. All right, so Kenny, I'm gonna let you talk a little bit. Let me introduce my co-host today, Kenny T. All right, I've known Kenny for a long time. He's a big boxing fan. We used to be on Leave It in the Ring together. And Kenny, why don't you share your thoughts on basically what Top Ranks? Am I way off on this? The way Top Ranks treated its fighters? Am I way off to say that they haven't been doing right by Teó?
Hey, Amílcar, thanks for having me. Greatly appreciated. Definitely a great introduction. I was over here with my microphone muted, laughing my ass off. Great introduction. But no, I wholeheartedly agree with you, man. Yeah, Bob Arum definitely behaves like a down low racist. You know, like he's used to having like that little clip you play. Like he's used to having slaves, and his slaves aren't acting the way he wants to, and like he can control the market and the value for these slaves. And that's not the case, because we've come a long way from that. We've come a long way from slavery, and this is a business. I think Bob Arum is just the old man that has had a long, powerful reign in boxing and ESPN Top Rank, and he's trying to exercise what used to work back in the day. But what used to work back in the day is no longer working for him, because we have all these other promoters that just don't give a shit about his bullshit, i.e. Eddie Hearns, Leonard Ellerby, etc. You know, all of Bob Arum's money doesn't matter. His views don't matter. Nobody cares what this ancient dinosaur has to say, especially not me. When he starts speaking about fights, I know that it's my time to flip the channel, because we're gonna hear a whole lot of this and a whole lot of pauses and a whole lot of nonsense that nobody wants to hear. He's always praising only his ESPN fighters. He's never actually fair when he's judging fighters that do not fight for his stable. So no, yes, I completely agree with you. He's a completely washed up old man that's way past the time that he should have been involved in boxing. He should no longer be involved in boxing. He's way too opinionated, and the man is like, he looks like he's dying on screen. You know, not that I wish that on anybody, but he does look that way. And he has some views that just do not make sense. Like you said, the view on Rigondeaux and him being boring, or the view on Teófimo and him being a spoiled little brat, or a young child that doesn't know his worth, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, it doesn't make sense, the things that he's saying, and he doesn't have the power like he used to just make people blindly believe the things he says. Social media and media is just way too powerful these days, and you do not have to listen to Bob Arum to get facts. You can get facts from going on ESPN.com, or you can get facts from going to many other places, many other boxing websites, like Boxing Scenes, like Fight Hype. You know, there's just so many places. You do not have to listen to Bob Arum.
The other thing too, though, Kenny, for me, and I appreciate everything you just said, bro, and I want to shout out everybody who's watching D-Style, because we're live on D-Style Boxing today. We're also live on my channel, Maestro A. Subscribe to Maestro A, and we'll keep the convos going on these and many other topics. But to me, the issue here is like, it's a bad look as a boxing promoter. Like, why the fuck would anybody sign with you when you essentially cross your best fighters? You know, Teófimo is arguably, his best fighter. Definitely it's him or Crawford, right? Crawford's got the WBO 147 championship. He's undisputed at 135. And here you are just dogging the dude out in public. Again, much in the same way that he did to Rigo. And to me, the similarities are clear. It's like you had your number one guy, Bob. You put all your chips in that number one guy, right? In the case of Lomachenko, it's clear that you probably wanted to extend his career a little bit longer, or you saw a few more years because the guy's in his 30s that you felt he was going to be pound for pound elite, and you get those big money fights out of him. Teó stopped all that. But rather than then go and turn Teó into a superstar, do everything you can to turn Teó into a superstar, what do? Well, you just dog him out in the media. You know, you try to say that he's not a big name fighter, or this is not a fighter like a pound for pound guy shouldn't be fighting a guy like Gumbrose. It's not a big fight. I'll tell you this, and you grew up same era as me, bro. Born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. We watched boxing at the same time. Roy Jones Jr. fights, he was considered a pound for pound guy. All of his opponents pretty much were like lower level. That's part of being pound for pound. What are your thoughts, Kenny?
I think you definitely make some good points. You like, there's nothing that you said that is a lie or like an understatement. He's definitely a dude that does trash fighters that he should be bigging up, and that's why all of the guys, all of the major names that he has under his stable right now, besides Lomachenko, all of the major names are not going to be re-signing their contracts once their contract is over. Terrence Crawford, he said, I think he already verbally said that he's not going to be re-signing with Top Rank once he's done with his contract in October. I think he's going to go over to Leonard Ellerby's stable. You know, same thing with Teófimo. I just read an article right now where Teófimo has been stating that he wants out of his contract immediately, which then makes sense as to why Bob Arum is talking about that he's a spoiled little brat. Spoiled little brat, why? I don't see him being a spoiled little brat. If the guy is great and he showed that he's great and he went out there, he fought his heart out, and he beat the quote-unquote best guy that Top Rank ESPN had under them in Lomachenko, then he deserves to talk all the shit that he wants to talk, and he deserves to be spoiled or behave spoiled and get a better contract and get more money from Bob Arum. It's just the way that Bob Arum behaves, you can tell the man has zero interest in boxing. His interests are only in finances that he can grab from each of these fighters and keeping these fighters in the dirt and in his palm. But that's over. That's no longer going to be the case. You got people that are actually paying these fighters in the zone, and I forgot what Ellerby's group of fighters is called, but you know, I just
whether promotions, / PBC.
There we go. Yeah.
If he's going to keep Ramirez or any of these other guys, I mean, if you were anyone, why would you sign with a dude like this? I mean, it's like you said too. It's like he's squeezing every last penny out of the fighters that he can. You know, it's the classic capitalist worker relationship where the worker produces all of the wealth, through his labor, and then here comes the capitalist just squeezing every last penny he can from the dude. And then he's actually bragging, Kenny, as you well know, about the fact that, he made $800,000 in 5 minutes, and now all he has to do is sit back pretty much and collect his 20%. 20% off of this next Teó fight for doing absolutely nothing. Not worse than nothing. He's actually dogging out his fighter.
He's making the show out be much less than what it would have been, or trying to hinder the show out and the support for Teó's fight, which doesn't really make sense. He could sit back and collect his 20% for the upcoming fights, sure, but that's limited. Bob Arum's time in boxing is limited. It's only going down, and the more shit he talks, the worse it gets for him. We're not in the old days of boxing. This is a new age in boxing where even social media is involved. All types of media are involved in boxing. Bob Arum's power is
No, you're absolutely right. And the other question, too, in all of this is, you know, he did it to Rigo. I felt that people should have learned from that already. I mean, you are responsible for promoting somebody. And instead of promoting that person, you're out there talking about that people want to vomit when they see him, right? That was a red flag. Now flash forward to Teófimo. If you're ESPN and you're handing Bob this money to put on fights on your network, because let's not forget this. This money ain't coming out of, you know, the Top Rank account at Chase Manhattan. This is coming out of ESPN's pockets. And ESPN just lost a fight with, if not their biggest commodity in boxing, because that could arguably be obviously Tyson Fury, who's also signed to Top Rank. If it's not him, it's either Teó or Terrence Crawford. And right now, I actually got to say Teó because his ratings for ESPN were actually higher. Out there, you guys in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, they're actually higher, I think, than Crawford's last fight. Just want to shout out the people in the chat. Alexis, thank you for the super chat. I know my man D-Style's definitely going to appreciate that. All right, we've got a bunch of people out here with us. We got G-Funky, A-Rod, Philly Irish, Bruce Goes, Outlaw, Nando as always, bro, Mike from Boston, Breeding Boxing, and everyone else, Coco the Dawn. I could go on. You're all here. Thank you for tuning in. I'm joined here with Kenny today. All right, my man KT from the Heights, Washington Heights. I'm in the South Bronx. Kenny is literally right across the Harlem River from me, not too far from me right now. And obviously, big boxing head. Just want to let everyone know that the phone lines are open. 718-618-4284. 718-618-4284 if you want to talk boxing. And again, I'm just going to replay some stock footage of the ideal Top Rank fighter that I played earlier in the show.
Running the bed, the sheets, the pillowcase, everything else when this black ass motherfucker.
Now that is my problem. They are mine to burn. Now your problem right now is making a good impression. And I want you to start solving that problem right now and get them goddamn rooms ready.
Yes, sir, Mr. Kenny.
Yeah, yes, sir, Mr. Arum. I'll clean those sheets, Mr. Arum. I'll go out there and clean that tobacco field and all of that good stuff, Mr. Arum. Fuck you. Fighters ain't doing that shit anymore, Bob. This ain't Django Unchained. Okay, this is 2021, and fighters should be hiring promoters. All right, not promoters acting like they're the bosses of fighters. No, it don't work like that. All right? It definitely doesn't work like that when you're the motherfucking lightweight champion of the world. Undisputed, actually. That's not how the game is played in 2021. And you said it yourself. You know, he's from an older era. You said it yourself, Kenny. It's like you're either going to get with the times, Bob, or you're going to age out like the dinosaurs.
And he's definitely on his way out. He is definitely aging out.
Right.
And one comment to what you said before with Tyson Fury, I think Tyson Fury will be A-okay, and I don't ever see him talking negatively about Tyson Fury because Tyson Fury is a white man. Let's not forget the two men that we're discussing in the situation, they're both minorities. And I don't think that Bob Arum likes that too much, although most of the money that he's making is from minorities.
This is true, you know, and not just minorities, which is, I mean, obviously minorities, they're all like working class people from low income backgrounds pretty much. And the funny thing is, he even threatened to fuck up Tyson Fury's money over all of this mess. So look, Bob got really upset when this happened.
Left hand right down the pipe.
When you're cutting the ring,
hand right.
Look at this.
Goes back. Bam. They lands a straight
Sorry
left hand
that
right
Rigo
down.
did that to you, Bob. We're gonna run it back again. Let's run it back. I was there live. Whew. And I just as easily have shown footage of Teófimo doing that to Lomachenko again. The comparison is there. Okay? These two gentlemen fucked up the apple cart. Matter of fact, they turned that bitch on its ass and like all the apples fell out. Check it out. Saturday, April 13th. Well, actually, I put 2021. That's supposed to say actually 2013. I'm so used to typing in the dates of the year. So Saturday, April 13th, 2013. Look at that. Nonito. Guillermo. Nonito was the man, pound for pound at that time. You look at now, all right, last year, all right, and what did you see? You saw Teó in the exact same position, all right, the exact same position. The position of he's second in the line, all right, he's also signed the top rank, and then he goes in there and upsets the apple cart. That's what happened, all right, that's what happened. And as a result, these guys both end up facing the wrath, unfortunately, of none other than Bob Arum and Top Rank Boxing. It's unfortunate that someone as powerful as him can be so petty, so vindictive. He's even threatening to fuck up the Anthony Joshua Tyson Fury fight over this. Threatening Eddie Hearn, and he's even threatened Teó, telling him, look, you're not going to get the unification fight against a winner, Ramirez and Josh Taylor. Don't expect to get the same money when you come back. Ooh, okay.
This guy's a clown. Seriously. I just looked up his age just because I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that we was right with what we were saying. The guy is 89 years old. This guy, most of his life was during racist times.
Yeah. Yeah, and he may not be an overt racist, but dude is treating fighters like some kind of an underclass.
His behavior is racist. It's not that he's saying, I don't like these people, I don't like that people, I don't like that people. His behavior is racist. The way that he's treating fighters as if he owns them and as if they're modern day slaves, it's just like, it's like he took the whole slavery era, wrote down their outline on how it is that they treated their slaves, and just like, okay, this is how I'm gonna treat my employees, my workers, aka my fighters. Like
my man G Funky, aka G Funkstradamus, aka the best predictor of fights in boxing, says Rigo outclassed him that night. You damn right he fucking outclassed him. It was left hands all night long and right hooks. And you can imagine Bob Arum sitting there first row, gritting his teeth, thinking about ways he could fuck up Rigo, sorry, for doing what he did. How dare you, Bob? Anyways, let's move on. But people could call in 718-618-4284. Phone lines are open, 718-618-4284. And yes, if you're wondering, 718 is the area code out here in the Bronx, New York, where we are live from this afternoon. We are simulcasting on D-Style Boxing and on...
I cannot hear you, Amílcar.
So please subscribe, check it out, and yeah, subscribe and check out what we're doing on both of these channels here. So moving on, what I want to do is I want to discuss whether you are believing the hype. Whether you are believing the hype. And the hype I'm talking about is none other than this Fury Joshua fight, because every day I tune in. I'm not tune in, but I read my reports that I get.
Okay, I think you're trying to talk, but I cannot hear anything you're saying. I see the thing around your icon, but I cannot hear a word that you're saying.
That's weird. I don't know why that's the case, Kenny. We could check it out. Kenny, why don't you come back in, and I'll see if you can. Kenny, can you hear me now?
I don't hear anything at all.
Okay,
technical issues we're having at the moment.
I'm gonna have to ask Kenny to come back in to the chat. All right, so they're saying they hear me, so it's just Kenny that can hear me. Thank you, Nando, and thank you, Blood, for letting me know. I'm gonna text Kenny and let him know to log out and log back in so we can hear my brethren from there in the Heights just fine. Yeah, so getting back to what I was saying here, every day I tune in or check in with my boxing feed, and about to happen next few days, really quick, really soon. What the hell is going on with this negotiation, and why is it taking so long to happen? So my question to Kenny was going to be if he's believing the hype. I'm starting to worry that this fight may not happen in 2021. And for me, it would be detrimental to the sport of boxing if we get deep into 2021 and this hugely important, undisputed heavyweight title fight does not happen. Because this is by far the biggest fight in the sport right now. You've got Tyson Fury, Ring Magazine, WBC heavyweight champion. Great story coming back. All of that weight loss coming back off the canvas against Wilder, finishing the fight, winning that round had it not been for the knockdown, right? Then comes back, rematches Wilder again in his country, and literally fucks him up. Fucks him up so badly that the dude is believing every conspiracy theory under the sun. All right, next thing you know, we're going to be hearing that, Martians were involved in the fight outcome. Or if not Martians, people that lived under the ocean and whatever that world is that Aquaman lives in. So he came through all of that. He won that huge fight. And now he's taking on a fellow Englishman, a fellow Brit, a fellow champion for the undisputed championship of the world. Huge, huge fight. But it seems to be taking forever to sort out. I don't know what the issues are. Is it an issue of television? Is it an issue of sponsorships? I don't think it's an issue of these two gentlemen that you see on screen not wanting to fight each other. By all accounts, they do want to fight each other. But I just hope that this isn't just hype, all right? That this fight does happen, because the heavyweight division, is fucked up as it is, all right, is a life's blood to the sport of boxing. Shout out to my man Blood Boxing, by the way. And with all of the issues around mandatories and rights to fight the champion and everything else, we cannot afford for this fight to be dragged on any longer to the point where one of these titles has to get dropped and it's no longer for the undisputed title. Yes, I often say belts don't matter and fuck the belts and all of this other stuff, but you know what? In this case, they do matter, because the fight watching population expects to see these four belts on the line. And for whatever it's worth, these four belts are necessary, unfortunately, to be heavyweight champion of the world. Again, I grew up in the 90s, born in the 80s. Kenny is there as well. And, last time there was a heavyweight champion, there was no WBO title involved. Lennox Lewis did not need to knock out Herbie Hyde to win the WBO undisputed championship. He didn't need the WBO belt. But in this day and age, unfortunately, you do. So here's what we got to do. We got to hope that this fight takes place in 2021. Ken, you back here with us?
Yes, I'm back loud and clear. Apologies for my interruptions earlier.
Oh, all good, bro. These things happen in live radio, so to speak. So look, What are your thoughts on this fight, and do you see it happening in 2021?
I definitely do not see it happening in 21. I would love to see this fight. I would 100% love to see this fight. I think this is a fight that everybody's been waiting for in the heavyweight division. Even before the Fury Wilder, everybody wanted to see these two guys fight. So, but no, I do not see it happening in 2021. I saw somebody in the comments said that they think it'll happen depending on the number of vaccines that can go out and that these guys want a full stadium. I think it has nothing to do with that. I think that's going to continue being delayed, just like the AJ and Wilder fight was delayed, just like the Tyson and Deontay fights were originally delayed. I think this is going to continue being delayed. I feel like that's the name of the game in today's boxing. Keep the people hype and excited, but don't give them what they want until a little too late or until they're looking in other avenues for excitement. So I honestly don't see this fight happening in this year, especially because I feel like we still have to see what the hell is going to happen with the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury saga and whether that lawsuit is going to go through or they're going to force a third fight or whatever the case may be. Because I know that that's still in the works and they still continue talking about that all the time. What do I think about this fight? Man, you guys are going to think I'm crazy. But nah, I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. So as a fan, I would want Anthony Joshua to win right off. But as a analyst, it just looks like Tyson Fury got what it takes. That in and out and that jab and the lateral movement on Tyson Fury, that head movement is a little crazy. And Anthony Joshua hasn't really looked like the slugger that we have known him to be from the beginning of his career. It looks like he's slowed down and he's trying the whole grab, hit, move type of fighting style. And I don't know if that's really gonna work with a guy that moves so much like Tyson Fury and a guy that's so big and pushes away and literally he has so many types of movements. I just don't see how that grab, hit, move type of style is definitely going to be effective against Tyson Fury. Who knows? He seemed a little more excited and a little more aggressive in his last fight. He was throwing that uppercut a little more, and that uppercut, the straight hook uppercut. That's his moneymaker right there. If he starts throwing that a little more, who knows? Maybe he catches Tyson Fury with a couple shots. We do know that Tyson Fury does have a nice chin on him, but he can definitely be knocked down, as we saw with Deontay Wilder. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Anthony Joshua does not have anywhere near or similar or close to power as Deontay Wilder. I think Anthony Joshua is a very powerful man, and unless we're there getting hit by these men, we cannot tell who the hardest hitter of these guys is.
Gotcha, Kenny. We've got a call, area code 915. You are live at 5 with a Maestro A and Kenny T. How's it going? Oh, D-Style, I hear you loud and clear, bro. Just give me one quick second. I have to add you in over here. This is my fault. One quick second, and I get you right here on the line with us. So yeah, this is D-Style Boxing calling us in. I just need a second while I connect them in. D-Style, we should be able to hear you now. How's it going, brother?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear. Sorry about that.
No problem. Let me tell you what's the big issue with this, man. I mean, Fury, Joshua, I mean, it really isn't that hard, bro. Look, Ramirez and Tater, obviously, it was a little maybe easier. You could argue make that fight, but look, they're going to get it done, right? That fight's going to happen. It's signed now. Well, let me knock on wood really quick before I continue. All right, there we go. But I think, it always seems to me, I've always said this to people, man. Just listen when you first hear that there's talks and wait until the final say, whether they say the fight is off or they say the fight's a go. Because everything else in between is all bargaining, it's all negotiation, it's all, trying to leverage yourself to get a bigger piece of the pie. And I think that's what's going on right now, man. I'm hoping that the fight happens, obviously, but if they're not going to fight, then, and I've been saying this, and I know there's a lot of people that disagree with me, but then just go ahead and, do the Wilder fight then. Either one of them. Just fight Wilder then. because that is an option that's there if Wilder's willing to come to the table, whether it's Joshua, whether it's AJ, I'm sorry, Fury, because we can't wait forever for these guys to fight each other. Like, we can't just, wait or, they got to get the fight done. That's all I got to say about that.
No, you're absolutely right. I'd like to see the fight happen. I hope it happens. I'm a sucker for the daily briefings. I'm one of those guys, I guess, that gets lured into the breaking news graphic that you see on television, at least on 24-hour news. But you're right. I mean, it's all back and forth. It's probably part of the promotion, maybe even. I don't know. What do you think, Kenny?
Like I said, I would love to see this fight. It's just not something that I see happening. I honestly don't, unless Wilder could somewhat force it by law or something. I don't really see there being a Wilder Fury 3 or a AJ Fury in the coming year. I just don't see it. I would love to see that fight happen. It's just right now I just don't see it happening, especially with all the other nonsense that Arum has been talking, all the other nonsense on his plate.
Yep. We got Drew Evo on the line as well. Drew. How's it going, Drew? Thanks for calling in or actually joining us through YouTube.
Well, I tried to call you, but I was busy, so I decided to jump in real quick and say my opinion on this matter. But I think the fight's closer than everybody thinks it is right now. Like, if you look at it, even though Bob Arum does promote Tyson Fury, he's only his U.S. promoter. And this fight's not taking place in the United States. And if you look at it like this, doesn't Queensberry Promotions have more of a say if the fight doesn't take place outside the United States?
That's a good question. I actually don't know. That's a really good question, though. Because you're right. Isn't Top Rank and Bob Arum Fury's U.S.-based promoter?
And that would make it. I thought that Queensberry owns more rights to Fury. I thought it was like a 45-55 split in favor of Queensberry.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I saw this article a couple hours ago that they agreed the terms on the fight. But I don't think Arum has too much of a say if this fight takes place outside the United States. It's rumored to take place in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So
this fight is going to happen, I think. This fight's probably going to happen in the summertime. And Tyson Fury, in my opinion, is going to stop Anthony Joshua inside 8 rounds.
Why? I agree.
Why? Because Anthony Joshua showed he can box a little bit. But when you go in there with Tyson Fury, who's, my opinion, the best all-around boxer in the heavyweight division.
Facts.
He's going to counter Anthony Joshua most of that whole fight. And it's going to get to a point that it's going to be enough to put Anthony Joshua down because Anthony Joshua's chin is still questioned by a lot of boxing public.
I think even Anthony Joshua questions Anthony Joshua's chin, to be fair. I mean, look how we boxed against Andy Ruiz in the rematch. Look how he necessarily didn't go for the, I don't like to use the word kill, but I'm struggling to find a synonym for it against Pulev, right?
Yeah.
And I was arguing, I wouldn't say arguing, I was debating on a UK podcast that I was on earlier in the week with a couple guys who clearly favor Joshua in the fight and say that his boxing's improved. Okay, his boxing's improved. I'm not going to say that it hasn't, but it hasn't improved to the point where he's going to be able to outbox Tyson Fury. What are your thoughts, Kenny?
I agree with you on that. I think his boxing's improved only enough to keep him away from getting KO'd within 8, like you guys said. But I don't think his boxing has improved enough for him to like completely beat Tyson Fury. I honestly, like I said, as an analyst, I don't see him beating Tyson Fury. I don't think that he has the skills. Maybe he could get a lucky hit in and knock him down once, like Deontay Wilder did. The way I see it is, if Deontay Wilder was able to land one and knock him down, maybe Anthony Joshua could also do the same. But no, I don't think that Anthony Joshua's skill has developed enough to say that he's gonna beat Fury just off of the skill. Because literally, we saw a lot of running in Ruiz. We saw a little bit of the dog come back against Pulev, but we did see a little bit of him being scared as well. And we do know that his chin is extremely susceptible. So, and we do know that Fury has power in both hands. So, yeah, Fury could also catch him with a knockdown that he may not get up from. If Ruiz was able to catch him with a KO punch, then Fury can definitely catch him with a KO punch. I just don't know. I think the fight may go 12. At least maybe I'm hoping it goes 12. But I don't think I see AJ winning this fight. Not with what I've seen lately. Not with the skills I've seen that he's developed since Ruiz and Pulev. It still looks like Fury is gonna get this W, especially if he keeps on training and developing the way that he did throughout the Wilder fights.
Go ahead, Drew.
Now, I'm gonna comment on the 2 fights that he had since losing to Ruiz. In the return match with Ruiz, I thought that he did more of running in the later rounds than box. But in the Pulev fight, he fought a guy really that only threw 1 punch. That's only known for throwing 1 punch. That his opposition wasn't really good opposition, and he was gifted 2 opportunities at the heavyweight title, one against Klitschko and another against Joshua, in some sort of the same rankings in the WBO rankings. So
yes, absolutely.
So and neither fighter did Ruiz. He had some good defense and everything, but he came in way out of shape. So that was an easy fight for him to jog around, run around with, box, get hit, not to get hit. And Pulev has absolutely no defense whatsoever. He's a one-handed fighter, and Pulev is not even skilled enough. So he did improve in his boxing, but I have to see this against a better caliber fighter or a more in-shape fighter than the 2 that he faced.
Yeah, absolutely. My only question, honestly, about Tyson Fury is going to be whether or not this layoff is going to be detrimental to him, because it's been over a year now since the Wilder fight. But other than that, it's Tyson Fury all the way as far as I'm concerned. Drew, I'm going to bring up something here for you right now, right? Because I know you're a fan of the guy that's on, and that's Billy Joe Saunders. So I got a question for you. One of the things that I constantly hear people saying about Billy Joe is that he fights to the level of his opposition, and he does not pretty much get up for the big for the fights that are not big fights. So he only got up for guys like Andy Lee for the Lemieux fight, and now he's going to get up for the with Canelo Alvarez. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. In his last fight that I saw him in, he could have done better. But I think it was more of a strategy move to help him get a bigger fight to let the bigger guys think of vulnerability. Because some fighters, if they can't get the big fights, they try to act vulnerable a little bit. So these big guys just say, hey, this guy might be vulnerable a little bit. I'll fight him now. Especially when he has a belt. But now, since this fight's made, I think you might see the best Billy Joe there is, because he has the skill set and he's a southpaw. And he's the type of fighter that can give Canelo fits. And if you look back at the Law fight, southpaw gave him a lot of problems. A lot of people thought Law won the fight, but didn't believe Canelo beat him 9-3 and everything. I thought Law won the fight 9-3 in my opinion, but
yes, sir.
I really think Billy Joe Saunders is gonna beat Canelo Alvarez because of his movement, his footwork, his counter ability, his boxing, his defense. I really think this is gonna be a big problem for Canelo in the fight the longer this fight goes.
I think it's going to be a problem too. I don't know. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that I think Billy Joe's going to win. That's very brave of you to do that. What I will say, though, is that Billy Joe's attributes are things that could potentially pose serious problems for a guy like Canelo. He's not going to stand there on center line with no feigning, no head movement like Yildirim did. He's not going to lay up against the ropes and get pounded on like Callum Smith did. All right, he's not going to be going straight back like other Canelo opponents have. He's going to be moving at angles. His feet are pretty quick. He's going to be getting in and out of there. He's going to be pot-shotting and moving, pot-shotting and moving. And I've actually heard Billy Joe Saunders' opponents say that the guy's physically strong. So he'll clinch when he has to. He'll hold when he has to. And one thing I don't think he often gets credit for, Drew, is the fact that he actually has a decent chin. So I'm a Canelo fan. I see him winning the fight right now, but I'm not going to say that it's super crazy for you to think that Billy Joe has a shot here. What do you think there, Kenny?
This is an amazing fight. You and I had been talking about this fight being made years ago.
Yep.
This is an amazing fight. I do like the way Saunders fights when he gets up, as you guys said. You know, all the head and body movements against Lemieux. You know, I think he's a very good fighter. He got some decent moves. He could throw punches and with power from different angles. I, however, do see Canelo winning this fight. I think this will be a 12-round fight. I think Canelo will win 12-round decision, either unanimous or 2 judges to 1. Yeah, I think this is gonna be an amazing fight. We're definitely gonna see Billy Joe Saunders looks better than he has ever in his entire career. But at the end of the day, we have to remember that this is Canelo. And the same way that Billy Joe Saunders is going to up his game, Canelo's also going to up his game. And every single question that Billy Joe Saunders is going to bring up for Canelo, I think Canelo's going to have an answer for. You know, Canelo comes with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game plans. If you want to talk about somebody elusive that gave Canelo the fight of his life, that was Mayweather. Mayweather embarrassed the shit out of Canelo. And ever since that fight, Canelo has been a completely different fighter. It's like Canelo took a page from Mayweather's book on defense. And I see him also dodging a lot of Saunders punches with his lateral movements and head movements. So it's going to be an amazing fight. I really look forward to this fight.
Go ahead, Drew.
I don't know if anybody else saw this, but I feel like Canelo is slower at this weight.
Yeah, I definitely think he's slower, but I think some of that style too. He's decided, and I'm going to build off of what Kenny said here, that on defense, sometimes less is more. It's all about subtle head movement, subtle body positioning. I think that he's really learned from Floyd in that area and has added that to his game. What do you think, Kenny?
He definitely has, especially with you've seen him in his last fight, use the head movement and try to use the shoulder roll a little more. It just really works out for him, and he's able to do it because he is a smaller guy with more muscle on him. He should be the faster guy in this weight class. He shouldn't be the more powerful guy, but he does have a hell of a lot of power. You know, I just think Canelo is really, he's the truth. He showed us after he took that loss to Mayweather that he is the truth. He is a force to be reckoned with. He adopted all of that special defense, not all of it. Let me not say all of it. But he adopted a lot of that special defense that Mayweather does. And he's definitely been doing that little shoulder roll. And the head movements are ever so subtle, like Amílcar said. His head movements don't take a ton of energy from him as they would have, and they aren't as agile and as fast and as exaggerated as they would have to be in the lower weight classes and these higher weight classes. So he is able to conserve a little bit of energy that way. And I definitely think that he's going to be able to withstand the whole 12 rounds of Saunders, and I think he's going to put a beating on Saunders. Although Saunders, I think they're both going to go last 12 rounds. Saunders is going to give him some work too, but at the end of the day, I just think that Canelo is going to be too overpowering with his combinations and with his power, and he's just going to get out of the way of a lot of the Saunders punches with his Mayweather adapted type of defense.
He's got great eyes too. He sees the shots coming. It's like he sees the shot almost from the moment that his opponent thinks of the shot. So I think it's going to be a great fight. We've got D-Style back with us this time live here on StreamYard. I'm also going to bring in none other than H Money. H Money, my man out there. Let's start with D-Style. D-Style, what are your thoughts?
Really quick, as far as Canelo goes, what I could say this, as he's moved up, I actually disagree with what Drew said. Now, first of all, everyone slows down the higher they go in weight class. That's just a fact, period. You know what I mean? But it's just that he is faster than his opponents. Like, these big guys cannot keep up with him. His hand speed, it might have gotten slower as he moved up, but the guys he's fighting don't have as fast hands as the guys did at 154, for example. There's a bigger gap there in hand speed. And I also think Canelo has found a way to make what should be a disadvantage to an advantage by, getting in these guys' staying mid-range, getting in their chest, and then all of a sudden they can't use their long arms against them, and you could pound on that long torso of theirs. And I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue for Billy Joe Saunders. Now, Billy Joe has the movement. He's slick. So he hasn't shown much of it in the last few fights, but I do feel like he's going to show it here, man. I think this is the fight of his life. He should be preparing for it like no other fight before. So look, you have Canelo Alvarez. You win this fight, this is a legacy fight for him. Of course, Billy Joe's going to come in the best shape of his life. I hope he gives him a great fight. I hope he presents a challenge to Canelo and doesn't just come to collect the payday. That's what I'm hoping, because I love competitive fights as a boxing fan. I like it when it's competitive. I like to be in the middle of the fight and be like, man, I know who's going to win this fight. That's the type of fight I want it to be. That's what I want. But I just think that at some point, Canelo's going to wear him down. And one more thing about Canelo. Early in his career, he would fight in spurts, but he would exhaust a lot of energy, right? He would throw nothing but power shots with occasional jabs, and he would do too much feinting, and it would just use too much of his energy. So he would have to take 2 or 3 rounds off in the middle of the fight, and then he would pick it up in the championship rounds. The one thing Canelo has done, all right, he has found a way to use his energy properly. He understands that energy is fight night. He understands how much to use of it through every round up until the 12th round. And he fights at just basically, a pace that I think these bigger guys just cannot keep up with. It overwhelms them. You watch the Smith fight. Smith kept looking up at the clock. He was like, man, this guy is relentless. He doesn't stop. He keeps coming. And I think that is what Canelo has definitely improved. And one more thing, actually. The defense. Canelo's he's mastered how to make guys miss punches. He's mastered how to catch shots with his gloves, which I never saw Mayweather do. So I don't like when people just say, oh, he got it from Mayweather. No. This guy's a student of the game, okay? He watches film of Loche. He watches a lot of film of different fighters and picks up different things. He doesn't have the frame of Mayweather. He doesn't have the reflexes of Mayweather. He needs to develop his own type of defense, his own type of style. He ain't doing no shoulder roll halfway. He does some of it and variants of it. But what I'm impressed with how he catches shots with his elbows, his gloves. He parries the shots very beautifully. And lastly, how he has 3 lines of defense. Makes you miss, catches shots, and lastly, rolls with shots. He's really good at taking away most of the power as he rolls with it. I don't think Billy Joe Saunders has fought a guy like that. That's all I got to say.
If I could just supplement something to that, I'd like to add on to what D-Style, what you just said. There's something that he also did in his last fight versus Smith that I never seen him do before that I think would be extremely effective if he does it against Saunders. And that's he destroyed that bicep/shoulder area. Smith couldn't even lift or move that arm to block. If he does that to Saunders, it's a wrap. Saunders not going to be able to defend the same way. He's going to have to only defend with head movements, not by using his arms. And that's going to be much easier for Canelo to depict.
You guys want me to rebuttal?
What quick, Drew? Let's go to H Money. H Money, thanks for joining us. What are your thoughts, fam?
Yo, this is a good fight right here. Canelo Alvarez, Billy Joe Saunders, unification bout. I have to agree with D-Style. I think Canelo's going to break him down with the body shots. And I don't think Billy Joe has the power where Canelo will respect him. So I feel like Canelo is going to go in there and walk him down. Canelo, one of the best body punchers in the sport of boxing. He has a great high guard defense. And I think Canelo's too strong, too powerful. Canelo is in the prime of his career right now. And I don't see Billy Joe Saunders beating Canelo. I think Billy Joe's a good fighter. He has boxing skills, but I feel like he's slightly overrated, to be honest. I seen Billy Joe in one of his last fights against a fighter from Argentina, and he was losing that fight. And that was on the Jake Paul, that was on a Logan Paul with the KSI undercard. And I seen a lot of flaws in Billy Joe's game, man. I don't think Billy Joe's the same fighter at 168. I think Canelo is just too strong, too powerful. And I think Caleb Plant is actually a tougher test for Canelo Alvarez, knowing that Caleb Plant is much taller. Caleb Plant is fast. He's quick. And I think Caleb Plant is going to be the toughest fight for Canelo. Thanks for having me on the panel, by the way.
Oh, of course, H Money. Of course, always. And everybody should check out H Money Boxing. I love your content, fam. So anytime you want to jump on with me, you're always welcome.
Thank you for having me, my brother. I appreciate it.
Of course. So, Drew, you had something you wanted to say, bro?
I got to rebuttal this.
Right.
Because
I figured you'd want to.
Because I got to. Because now, if you saying these guys, okay, his style has evolved. But all he's fought lately are punchers. Guys that were staying in front of him the whole time. This is the first boxer he fought since Law. And the thing is, you don't even know he's going to be able to cut the wing off with this guy. He wasn't able to cut the wing off with Law. So now, you don't even know if he's going to be able to cut the wing off with this boxer. Because this guy's going to constantly move. And he's not used to fighting a guy that constantly moves. He's used for a guy that's going to stay there and trade with him, that wants to fight him, that wants to go toe-to-toe with him. And that's what people do not see. They think since he evolved, but guys, he's only fought punchers. This is the second guy that can box, that's a pure boxer that he fought in years.
You're talking about, obviously, Billy Joe Saunders, pure boxer. Yeah, it has been a while since he's fought a guy who strictly relies on his boxing. I think we've got a lot to learn. I don't know if I can definitively say, H Money, what you said about Plant being a more, tough test than Saunders. I think that's up for debate. We'll see, obviously. We'll see on, when is this, May the 8th? This fight is taking place. The one thing I say about Plant that I've always said is that he's got very weak level of opposition. So it's like I don't really have that much data to go off of because his last 3 fights have been Caleb Truax, who's way past it. Who before that it was Fig and Bounce, who most boxing fans, even the most hardcore fans like us, hadn't necessarily heard of, and obviously Mike Lee. But I do agree that Caleb Plant is tall. That's obviously going to pose a threat. And obviously he's got a pretty good hand speed as well. Last thing I wanted to discuss today is this. And H Money, I'll ask you first. Are you going to be buying this?
Which fight is that? The Canelo, Billy Joe?
No. I'm sorry. I switched what I have on my screen here. I should have announced it. And by the way, this is live at 5, Leaving the Ring live at 5. We're here Monday, Wednesday, Friday on my channel, Maestro Master A. And so I was asking about the Clarissa Shields pay-per-view. You going to be buying this?
I don't think I'm going to buy it, but I am interested in that fight. Clarissa Shields, she's trying to make history once again. She's already the fastest fighter in the history of boxing to become a 3-division world champion. And now she's trying to become the fastest fighter to become a undisputed champion in 2 different weight classes. So I'm interested in this fight. I believe Clarissa Shields, she has the best trainer in boxing, and John David Jackson. John David Jackson, former 2-time world champion, the great trainer of Sergey Kovalev, the former trainer of Bernard Hopkins, Randall Bailey, Nate Campbell, and also Shane Mosley. So I think, I definitely think Clarissa Shields is one of the best fighters in the world, regardless of male or female. She's a great champion, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. I won't be buying it, but I am interested in watching Clarissa Shields, because I'm going to be watching Chocolatito versus Juan Francisco Estrada, that rematch that day. I want to rebuttal the brother real quick. As far as Billy Joe Saunders, you saying he's a slick boxer. Yes, he's a good boxer, but I feel like his level of competition is not too far away from Caleb Plant. I think Caleb Plant will beat those same guys that Billy Joe Saunders beat, including Chris Eubanks Jr., David Lemieux. I feel like Caleb Plant is a much better athlete than Billy Joe. He's taller. He's actually faster. He's more athletic, and he has better skills. As far as Billy Joe being a slick boxer, yes, he is a slick boxer, but I feel like he's being overrated, and especially at 168 pounds. When you think about who did Billy Joe Saunders beat for that belt, it was a vacant belt. So Billy Joe, he hasn't been in there with the top competition at 168. I believe Caleb Plant has a better win at 168 against Uzatagi, who beat Andre Durrell. So another thing is this, as far as the boxers that Canelo has faced, you said that's the last boxer that Canelo faced since Lara. I definitely disagree with that because Triple G is a very good boxer as well, underrated. He has a very good jab. He can move as well. And let's not forget to mention Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs, who was a former 2-time champion. Daniel Jacobs, who's a very good boxer as well, a great boxer in the amateurs. So Daniel Jacobs, he's a great boxer as well, and we've seen what Canelo did with him. So I think Canelo is going to make easy work of Billy Joe Saunders. I got Canelo knocking him out.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I know the knockout, but most of everything else that you said, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Well, H Money's usually on the money, so I always respect my man's views on these fights for sure. So, Kenny, I do want to return real quick to the question of are you buying?
No. I'll definitely watch the fight. I'm not buying it though. You guys read in between the lines.
I got you. So I'm guessing like H Money, you're gonna be watching the Chocolatito Estrada fight like me too, right?
You already know. I'll definitely have my multiple screen thing going on. I definitely think that she's an amazing fighter. She's a great fighter, and what she's doing for women's boxing is amazing, like someone else stated before. But is it worth me paying for? Definitely not. My brother calls me, and this is hopefully nobody gets offended by this, but my brother calls me the Jew because I am so not willing to spend money where it doesn't have to be spent. And if I could watch the fight in other means, then I'm definitely going to go do that and not spend my money. It just is the way that it is. I'd rather pay for other things.
I'm sure that is going to offend a few people, but how do you?
It is what it is.
How do you decide what fights you buy, Kenny?
I decide what fights I buy by what fights I can gather, like my father, my brother, certain family members to watch, and how excited I am for these fights. I'm not excited for her fight. I like to see her fight, but I'm not excited for this fight that's coming up with her. It just is what it is. A lot of the fights that are being pay-per-views, I don't think should be pay-per-views. Like the conversation that we had before, pay-per-view shouldn't exist. We don't yes, I get it that boxing is a one and done thing. So it's not like basketball where you have 82 games per team per year. It's one boxing match. That boxing match is done. It's over. So I get why they want to pay-per-view maximize on money and stuff like that. But you know what? That just minimalizes viewership, especially in the state that we're in. That so many of these fights that we want to see are pay-per-view and matches, and a lot of them are not this week, not with the Clarissa Shields one, but a lot of them are being scheduled at the same time and stuff like that. So it just has you choosing what you're gonna watch anyway, it just is what it is. I'll definitely be catching the fight, but I won't be paying for it.
I think it's definitely a bad look if you're going to be going up head to head against cards that like hardcore heads are going to watch. Because at the end of the day, I think only the most hardcore heads are going to be watching the Clarissa Shields fight, mainly because I would even say for even the hardcore boxing fans, Clarissa Shields is like the only person on the card whose like name you immediately recognize, and obviously that's not Clarissa Shields' fault. To me, it has more to do with the state of women's boxing. Women's boxing is far behind women's other combat sports. Like, obviously, women have been competing in Taekwondo at the Olympics for decades. Have been competing in judo at the Olympics for decades. Women have been competing in fucking karate for decades. Not at the Olympics, but women have been going into karate dojos since way before any of us were born. So there's like a track record and a history and a general level of high competition amongst women in all of these sports. And I think what women's boxing is suffering from more than anything is just a lack of depth in the sport and the lack of competition and the fact that these women got to do all kinds of catch weights to make big fights because there just aren't enough women fighters out there. What do you think, H Money? I don't know if H Money's still with us.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, my brother?
I can hear you now, fam. I can hear you now.
Okay, what was the question? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that if you agree generally that the depth of competition in women's boxing is kind of what's keeping it back right now. I don't think it's people not wanting to watch women fight. To me, the issue is there's just not enough competition and like names out there. And I was referencing the fact that I think that even the most, strong, hardcore boxing fans don't really recognize a lot of the names on this card other than Clarissa Shields.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is history in the making when you think about it. This is the first all women pay-per-view. So it's all women on this card and it's on a pay-per-view. That's the first time this ever happened. I feel like you do got some women fighters out here with some big names. You got Katie Taylor, Savannah Marshall coming up. Also, we got Jessica McCaskill, who's an undisputed champion. That's a big fight she got coming to rematch with Breakus. So I feel like you do got the names, including Terry Harper, who's a very good fighter as well in the UK. So, it's about making the big fights, just like in the welterweight division, Earl Spence versus Terrence Crawford. We got to get the top girls, the top women fighters, and match them up. I think Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall is the super fight for women's boxing. That's the fight that's going to take women's boxing to the next level.
Yep, I agree with that. And you're absolutely right, Son Teó. Marlena Esparza from Houston is on the card. I did forget about that. There you go. So yeah, I totally forgot that she was on the card. I think probably because the promotion has really all been around Clarissa Shields. But yeah, she's definitely a very talented female fighter and deserves all that positive attention that she gets for sure. So while I still have you here, because I think we're going to end on this topic right here, my man. Who do you got in the Estrada Chocolatito fight?
I'm going to go with Juan Francisco Estrada. He's a technician in the ring. He has punching power, and I feel like he's younger and he's more durable at this point. I do like Chocolatito. He was able to become a champion once again. He still has a lot left in the tank, but I feel like his last fight he was in a war. He was in a war in his last fight. And Juan Francisco Estrada, he has a great jab. He has more skills. So I got to go with Juan Francisco Estrada. He's currently ranked top 10 pound for pound in the world. So I think Estrada is ready to make his adjustments. And I actually thought Estrada won that first fight. So hopefully Estrada can get his redemption in this one. And it was one more point I wanted to make about the women's boxing. I feel like us as the YouTube boxing community, we need to start making more videos about women's boxing and really promoting these fighters. We need to promote Clarissa Shields. She is a great champion. She's one of the greatest women's fighters of all time. So I feel like it's our responsibility to really promote these fights and say good things and support the women fighters, bro. It's our job, bro, and we need to uplift women's boxing. And I think Clarissa Shields, she is so far better than the rest of the females in the sport of boxing. It makes it hard. Her fights are so one-sided. You know, she's just so good, bro. But she needs competition, and I think Savannah Marshall is the one to step up to the plate. It takes two to tango, and Savannah Marshall versus Clarissa Shields is the super fight for women's boxing.
That's a big fight right there. That is absolutely a big fight. And, you know, Peter Fury's been talking about the fact that Clarissa Shields is beatable for a while now. And obviously he's got a bias there, but it's definitely a fight I really want to see. And speaking of women fighting in the sport of boxing, look, the Estrada Chocolatito card, I got it up there right now, right? The co-feature in that fight is a big fight. That's McCaskill Breakus too. And obviously McCaskill got that big upset on the zone last year, and Breakus wants some get back. And before there was Clarissa Shields, there was Breakus. I mean, she was undisputed. She had never been beaten in her entire career. She had pretty much dominated every female fighter, I should say fighter she had faced. What are your thoughts on Breakus, H-Money?
Breakus, she's a very good fighter. She has a lot of skills, but I feel like she's towards the end of the road of her career, my brother, and she's getting older. And I think Jessica McCaskill, she has a lot of heart. Jessica McCaskill from Chicago, tremendous fighter. She has a lot of dog in her. She kind of reminds me of a female version, a woman's version of Sean Porter, where she's relentless. She's constantly putting the pressure on Breakus, and you know what they say, pressure busts pipes. So I think Jessica McCaskill at this point in her career is too much for Breakus, and I think that Jessica McCaskill is going to outwork her, and she's just too young right now at this point. She's too hungry, and I think you know, the youth is going to be the advantage in this fight, and I respect Jessica McCaskill. She's a great champion, and she needs more respect in the sport of boxing. We need more people talking about her, my brother, because she's a great champion, and I think she's going to be a champion for a very long time. And Breakus, she's too old now, my brother. She's too old, and she's not the same fighter that she once was.
Yeah, look, we got to give it to McCaskill, all right, because, again, this is what shows kind of the sexism in the sport of boxing. And what I mean by that is, look, McCaskill defeated, like, the legend of women's boxing, the GOAT of women's boxing, and did it convincingly, obviously. And she didn't really get much shine for that, as far as I'm concerned. Like, she should have really been sent out on a media tour. You know, I'm not saying ticker tape parades, but there should have been a lot more accolades for her in what she did in beating Breakus in that fight. Look, H-Money, I want to thank you for joining today. I really do. Thank you, as always, for all of the work you do here in the YTBC. You're one of the best out there doing it, and I always enjoy your takes and your uploads and your streams. So you got a follower in me, and if anyone here doesn't follow H-Money or subscribe on YouTube, please do that. I'm going to ask you to subscribe to my channel, everyone. That's Maestro A. I'm on YouTube. And I'm also on Twitter as Maestro Amílcar, which is my first name, Amilcar. Kenny, any last words? I know you're about to get your YouTube stuff up soon. And why don't we extend the convo about Estrada Chocolatito, later, and get back to that in the near future. What are your final thoughts, Kenny?
Final thoughts. Thank you for having me. What's her name? She's the greatest woman of all time. She calls herself the GOAT, and I believe that she is. These fights that we have on screen right now should be great. I don't know who I choose between them, but like you said, we'll save that for next time. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having me. You guys all have a great evening.
Of course. Thank you, everyone. And again, I'm on YouTube as Maestro A, and I am on Twitter as Maestro Amílcar. Take care. Thanks again from the Bronx, New York. This was live at 5. Leave it in the ring, live at 5.